Look closely at this space. It's barely a fraction of an inch wide, bordered by damp earth and dense roots. For a tiny mouse, this narrow, dark crevice is the absolute physical boundary of his existence. But a mismatch exists between this cramped reality and the mouse's internal map. While his body is confined to millimeters, his ambitions scale to miles. This creates an aspirational vacuum, a constant pressure differential between the smallness of the burrow and the massive scale of his desires. Living in a space where every shadow and pebble has been memorized leads to a specific kind of mental friction. When the environment no longer offers new data, the mind begins to push against the walls, creating a restless, heavy tension that the burrow can no longer contain. Leaving the burrow resolves this imbalance. It converts that stagnant, internal pressure into the kinetic energy required to move forward into the unknown. The catalyst for that movement arrives quietly, a treasure map. Beneath the heavy roots of a nearby tree, buried in the dark soil, sits a rolled piece of parchment with a soft, pulsating glow. A map like this operates as a disruptive artifact. It introduces undeniable proof that a broader world is navigable, making the previous confinement of the burrow feel suddenly impossible to maintain. This proof forces a binary choice. He can either remain in the safety of the known, or he can assume the unquantifiable risk of the unknown. Crossing that threshold is the moment the internal shift becomes an external reality. The journey that follows simply reveals the choice that has already been made. Leaving the crevice triggers a sudden expansion of scale. The mouse enters an enchanted forest defined by towering trees, sparkling rivers, and fields of glowing flowers that stretch toward a distant horizon. These elements function as environmental catalysts. They are external forces that actively resist the subject, forcing immediate adaptation to the sudden exposure of the open world. To navigate this space, the mouse must cross swaying wooden bridges suspended over sparkling rivers, managing shifting terrain and massive heights at every step. This diagram illustrates these physical trials. Facing a bridge gap forces a choice: retreat to safety or proceed. When the mouse proceeds and navigates a danger, it triggers a feedback loop. As these cycles repeat, they result in a steady accumulation of internal confidence. Courage builds incrementally through this friction. It thickens and stabilizes with every successful navigation of a high-stakes environment, transforming from a temporary impulse into a permanent trait. The terrain is only half the ecosystem. The forest is also home to talking animals, introducing a different set of variables. These inhabitants form a social matrix. This network of relationships is as complex to navigate as the physical terrain, requiring a move from self-preservation to interaction. Approaching creatures exponentially larger than himself requires the mouse to bypass his biological alarms. He must willfully set aside his physical defenses to engage with the unknown. Converting these strangers into allies requires replacing the instinct to hide with the capacity for empathy. In this environment, kindness functions as a practical survival strategy. By extending empathy, the mouse binds these larger animals into a protective network that ensures his safety. Courage provides the means to face the environment. Kindness provides the means to exist within its population. These two layers work in tandem to navigate a world that is both physically vast and socially complex. The journey concludes by returning to the exact coordinates where it began, the tiny, dark crevice under the tree. This side-by-side comparison shows the mouse before and after the journey. Physically, he hasn't grown a single millimeter. The change is held entirely in the internal volume. Every danger escaped now exists as a complex geometric web stored within the same physical frame. The aspirational vacuum is gone. The internal space is now as vast as the world outside, creating a sense of stability that wasn't there before. Growth is not about outgrowing the burrow. It is the quiet triumph of allowing a vast world to expand your internal capacity.